So this is a nightly Zoom session which started when COVID hit. And Baruch Hashem, we're already exactly 9 months into the Zoom sessions. We almost haven't missed a night since. So it's Nachman Fried is on tonight, but he's at a Sheva Brachas for now, so he's listening in, but his video is muted.
I'm on. Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Nosson. Good. I'm waiting to hear every word. Can't wait.
Show your face, Nachman. Show your face for a minute. Here you are. Okay. Oh, Gavaldi. So anyone, and we have Rabbi Nosson Harkivi here. We have the Zeitlin boys. We have a Vasilski, a Rubinson, Rosenberg, Friedrich, Zeigers. That's Goldring Einiklach. We have a Samuel L. Rosenberg in the house from Monsey Kodesh. And it's an honor to have you here tonight with us. A real honor. We've been talking about this for a long time, and I've been promising the crew that I'm going to get you on closer to Hanukkah and bring us a Hanukkah inspiration. So the stage is yours tonight. I know we have exactly to be a Yeki. It's 9:18. We have 42 minutes, so let's make use out of the 42 minutes. I think we'll do like half hour. Let's do a half hour and see after a half hour, see if anyone has any questions that they want to ask. Or even if it's a question that is not necessarily benegay what Rabbi Maimon is going to speak, feel free to ask, but let's try to give chance. It shouldn't be too difficult, the questions, so he can actually leave on time, and we'll bring him back for a second session. How does that sound? Or we'll email some questions, and then he'll be prepared for the next session. So he'll know we got some tough cookies on this group, Rabbi Maimon. You got to be ready for us.
Yes.
Okay, so it's all yours.
Okay. One of the outstanding things in Breslov is when it comes to any Chag, any holiday, there's an incredible amount of information and inspiring thoughts, related to the holiday, especially Hanukkah. There's maybe a few hundred pages in Likutei Halachos about Hanukkah, all kinds of fantastic things. I've spoken about a lot of them. Maybe we'll introduce one at a time and then see if there's any questions on it. One of the most popular things in recent times is talking about fear, anxiety, that people suffer from, all kinds of fears and phobias and anxiety and stress, especially based on current events. And Rabbi Nachman writes a lot about this, about yira, that on one hand, fear, people know fear kills. There's an expression to die from fright, or at best, it shortens a person's life. So a person would say, if that's the case, why does Hashem want us to be afraid? The Torah says, Reishis Chachma Yiras Hashem, that step one in a relationship with Hashem is fear. Yira means fear, respect. When it comes to parents, Ish Imai Va'aviv Tiro, Yira, it's all over the place. Why? If this is something that kills people, we know that Yiddishkeit, it says V'chai B'hem, we're supposed to live with Yiddishkeit, not die with it. So Rabbi Nachman answers in chapter 60 in Likutei Moharan that there's two kinds of yira. There's the wrong type of yira, when a person is afraid of what they don't have to be afraid of, what they shouldn't be afraid of. That kind of fear kills and shortens a person's life. Whereas when a person has yira d'kedusha, holy fear, when a person is directing the fear to the right place, to Hashem, to a Mokum Kodesh, a holy place, or to Tzadikim, there's a pasuk, Yiras Hashem Toisif Yomim, that fear of Hashem adds days to a person's life. It expands, not only doesn't it shorten a person's life, it adds days. It makes each day longer, more powerful. I can do 10 times as much if I have proper Yiras Shamayim than if I don't. A person that doesn't have Yiras Shamayim, he wakes up in the morning, it's 8 o'clock. I missed the 7 o'clock, but there's still a 9 o'clock minyan. I don't have to run. Goes back to sleep and gets up at 10. Oops, missed it. All right, maybe tomorrow, that kind of thing. Person who has yira won't do that. When there's an element of fear about, what am I, I can't afford to miss this, that kind of thing. So Rabbi Nosson points out, where do we see this? The word Chanukah is miloshin chinuch. Chinuch means the beginning of education, like starting to get educated. On Chanukah, we see an incredible chiddush. We know that fire also is related to fear. At Har Sinai, it says the whole mountain was smoking on fire. V'Har Sinai Oshan Kulai. Person would say, what is this, a Steven Spielberg production? Hashem wanted to show fireworks. What did he need all of that for? And it says, Kof aleim har kegigas. He picked up the mountain and said, if you accept this, good. If not, you're all going to die here. What's all the fire and fear? And the Torah actually says, Ki yoreisa mipnei ha'esh. You were afraid. You saw the fire at Har Sinai. You were afraid, very much afraid. So we see that fire is also synonymous with fear. Fire frightens people. Rabbi Nosson says, take a look what happens on Hanukkah. They found a small little vial of oil that was 1 day's worth of oil, could burn for 1 day, or according to some, even less than 1 day. They put a match to it, they put fire to it, and not only didn't the fire shorten its life, the fire increased its life. That this 1 day's supply of oil was now able to burn 8 days. This is teaching us this incredibly important lesson of chinuch, of getting started in a relationship with Hashem, or any important relationship, even with another person. People that love each other. Today I'm in love. Today I fell in love, and tomorrow I fall out of love. If a relationship is based only on love, then it's 50% stable. If there's respect and love, if there's yira and ahava, then it's something that can be lasting, that can be permanent. And this is one of the messages in lighting these Hanukkah candles that we think about, that by lighting this fire, I want Hashem to give me this holy fire. We say in Uvolet Tzion in the morning, Hu yiftach libeinu b'seirosai, Hashem should open up our hearts to his Torah, v'yosem b'libeinu ahavosai v'yirosai, and he should infuse our heart with love and fear, love and respect. Any questions?
Rabbi Maimon, good evening. Nosson Harkaby from Lakewood. You said it so beautifully, like as if you're putting on a glove. But in life, general, the Hava and the Yira, we know are really opposite extremes, and our greatest challenge is the balancing of it, of these two things. Tzaddikim, ultimately were able, that made them a tzaddik emes, the Rebbe, and so on and so forth, because they were able to balance this ahava and yira. But in our day-to-day lives, it's easier said than done, if I may. Sorry for the lack of better words.
Very well put. Very well put. I'll share, let me try to clarify a little. So the question is, how does a person achieve that balance?
Yes, correct.
You look in Parshas Yisro, right after Matan Torah, when Moshe Rabbeinu sums up what took place, he says there, you know why Hashem did all of this? Leman nasoi selikim eschem, uba'avur tihye yirosoi al panechem levilti techtoi. It says two things there. So the Mefarshim point out, Leman nasoi selikim eschem, Hashem did this to lift you up, to elevate you. That's ahava. He wanted to bring us closer to him. Uleman tihye yirosoi al panechem levilti techtoi. And said you should have fear of Hashem on your face, you shouldn't sin. We see it mentions both things, Yira and Ava. So now the question is, number one, where do you get these things from, for starters? How does a person learn Yira? How does a person learn Ava? And Rabbi Nachman has a Torah where he says that the Yira and Ava are by the tzaddik. The tzaddikim are the ones who have succeeded. They're the ones who are most deeply connected to the Torah, and they have this Yira and Ava, and they know how to teach it. Number one, they're living examples of it. You look at it, you watch the way he conducts himself, and you see the things, you see the respect for Hashem, the boundaries, knowing boundaries, and at the same time, you see that if he didn't love Hashem the way he does, he couldn't do the things the things he does. And when we talk, Rabbi Nachman speaks so much about tefillah, about davening, and people ask a lot of times, Rabbi Nachman talks about having an hour of his Hisbodedus. What kind of hour? After 30 seconds, I'm done. What else is there to say? Hashem, I love you. You love me. I need everything. Have a great day. What is there to ask for in tefillah? This is one of the incredibly significant things to ask for. That the Torah tells us that a healthy relationship with Hashem includes yira and ava. Hashem, give me this. And it says, you can put it into my heart. Hu yiftach libeinu, v'yosim libeinu ava. Hashem, give me yira, give me ava. Show me how to express this. Number one, show me to understand. Give me an understanding of what it is, what boundaries you want me to maintain in my relationship with you. And again, this is one of the things that people struggle with today. I remember my Rebbe, Rav Rosenfeld, spoke about this during his time 50 years ago, when some of the psychologists and psychiatrists were talking about taking down all the boundaries. That's one of the things that makes a relationship between children and parents difficult, is this mommy-daddy nonsense. What do you mean? Harry, a kid should say to his father, Harry, how are you? And the father says, Joe, how you doing? These boundaries are that because, love, just, or again, places. People wanted to set up communes where it's love, just pure love. Who needs the and that's one of the things that brought society down, about 36 levels, unfortunately, trying to eliminate this critical piece, in a healthy relationship.
So is yira basically the Rav is this defining it as respect?
It's both. It's fear. Yira does mean fear, to be afraid, but it's a fear. Again, there's two kinds of fear. There's a fear that gets a person to run away from something, and there's a fear that generates respect. In fact, the Zohar Kodesh speaks about this, that there are some places in the Torah where it seems that fear is a lower level than love. And there's other places in the Torah where it seems to show that fear is above love. So the Zohar Kodesh says, you're right, there's two kinds of fear. There's yiras ha'onish, this fear of punishment, which is lower than ava. And then there's fear, the word yira, which means awe, a fear that comes from being awed. Wow, that's called yiras ha'roimamus. That's higher, that's a higher madrega even than ava. And here again, it's interesting to note, Rabbi Nachman makes a very serious statement about this. He says that there are many Sfarim that play down the significance of yiras ha'onish. Who needs, that's for kids. A kid, you have to tell, if you go into the street, you're going to get killed, But a more mature person doesn't really need that. We have to go for yiras ha'roimamus. Rabbi Nachman says, excuse me, yiras ha'onish is necessary for everyone. If you put up signs on the thruway that, speed limit such and such, speed limit, people know that there's no cameras around, or there's no cops around, or if a cop stops you, he's going to say, give me 50 cents and go right ahead. You'll see how many people aren't going to speed. If people see police car, they see cameras, and they hear that their friend just got hit with a $1,000 fine and they suspended his license for 6 months, people are going to speed less, or they're going to be more on the lookout for those cameras before they floor the gas.
But that's the yiras ha'onish is the one that brings the charadot, the one that brings the anxiety and all that. So how do you reconcile the two?
That goes back to what we said before. When it's yiras ha'onish from human beings or from things that we shouldn't really be so afraid of, it's negative. Anxiety, it shortens life, it can kill a person. Gives a person ulcers and kill a person. When the yira is directed towards Hashem, that I don't need that speed limit sign. The Torah says, V'chai bohem. The Torah says, V'nishmartem oid lanafshay. Hashem says it. I'm not gonna go past 120 miles an hour because Hashem says don't do it. The Torah promises that when it's Yira Digdusha, when it's Yiras Hashem Toisif Yomin, it's going to increase your life. You're going to be in less accidents. You're going to kill less people, and you're not going to get killed when that Yira is directed to the right places, to Hashem, to the Torah, to a Mokum Kodesh. You follow?
So even though it's Yiras HaOynish, the Yiras HaOynish itself doesn't bring the anxiety and those things. If it's Yiras HaOynish from Hashem, which is the command that's trying, you have no idea. But how many people in the walk around? Oh yeah, I didn't daven, I'm going to hell. I didn't do this, and all the Yiras HaOynish brings them to the same exact spot as the cop does.
Very, very important point. Very important point. That's why we need a Torah. That's why we need tzaddikim to explain each thing, to clarify. Those people that have only that attitude, oh yeah, I didn't daven, I'm finished, I'm going to get punished. But the tzaddik says, but you didn't daven 7 o'clock. Baruch Hashem, you davened 8 o'clock. You know, Baruch, you did daven, or you can still put on tefillin now and say Kriya Shema. And
that's exactly the point. My question is, how do you reconcile the two? Because there's usually an extreme. I feel nothing, or I feel everything. I feel nothing. I'm not doing anything. That's
beautiful, beautiful. There's a mitzvah in the Torah upon which the whole Torah is related to it, but especially Hanukkah. There's a famous question about Hanukkah that we make a bracha before lighting candles. Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvaysa v'tzivanu lahadlik ner Hanukkah. Hashem commanded us to light Hanukkah candles. Oh yeah? Where? Where's that commandment? Show me where it says it. It doesn't say in the Chumash, lahadlik ner Hanukkah. So the answer that's given is, it says in the Chumash, do not deviate to the right or to the left, loisosur yomin usmoil, from what the rabbis will teach us, from what the chachomim will teach us. The mitzvah of emunas chachomim is defined in the Torah as center. Don't go to the right or to the left. Don't try to be more religious or less religious than the way they teach Yiddishkeit, the way they show you what Yiddishkeit is all about, which means that in Yiddishkeit, it's very easy, if a person isn't knowledgeable enough, it's very easy to think they're being more religious when they're being less religious. Or for a person to be, think that they're totally out of it, and they're not. They're still in the ballpark, not just in the ballpark, but Hashem loves them. And in some cases, Hashem loves them more than he loves the tzaddik even, because they have weaknesses and everything. That when a person has all of these weaknesses, when that person does the smallest mitzvah, Hashem gets more nachas than another person doing 1,000 mitzvahs. So this is one of the functions of the tzaddik, as Rabbi Nachman defines it, that the tzaddikim teach us what's right, left, and what's center, and to keep us centered. That the fear should not be a fear that kills. It shouldn't be a fear that pushes you away from Hashem. It should be a fear that gives you strength, that gives you the strength and courage that you need to go forward, that kind of thing. Any other questions?
Anybody else have a question?
Please.
Anyone? Shall he continue?
If there's a problem with people asking stuff, I can ask all night, but I don't want to be the only guy.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I do.
I wonder, it's the York site coming up in 24 hours of the Dove Bear, really one of the founders of Hasidus. I wonder if you could tie that into something that you're talking about.
Sure. The concept of a yard site, number one, all the mitzvahs that we're trying to do are generally focused at elevating ourselves, elevating our souls, bringing us higher and closer to Hashem, and elevating the world. When we, for example, the Baal Shem Tov, one of the very significant basic thoughts that the Baal Shem Tov revealed to the world was, actually it goes back even to before his time, even the Arizal, the Sifrei Kabbalah, that in every food that we eat just about, there are souls in those foods. And by us eating properly, and making a bracha before we eat the food and making a bracha after we eat the food, we elevate the soul that's in that food. Sometimes a soul could be trapped in a fruit. The Arizal writes about this. People that lived life certain ways that they shouldn't have, and Hashem sends that soul back to earth to give it a second chance. So if the soul is a powerful soul, if the soul is very good and just a couple of small things missing, that soul will come back down to earth in a form of a human being, being given another chance in a sense. Sometimes the soul is sent down to earth in an animal, and sometimes in a fruit. And how does the soul get elevated? When a person makes a bracha on that fruit, a proper bracha, and they eat it, in a proper way, there's a pasuk in Tehillim, Re'evim gam tzemeim, they're hungry and they're also thirsty because nafsham bohem tisatov, because there are nefashos, souls that are cloaked in that food item that need a tikkun, they need an elevation. And by making a bracha on that item, I elevate the soul. Now, when a person passes away, when a tzaddik or a righteous person passes away, the term that's used is, we don't say he died, we say he was nistalik.
Well, tell me something about Dov Ber, how he did these things.
The way every tzaddik does it, by living his life properly well. I don't know, to be honest, I'm not that familiar about Rav Dov Ber, but I know that Chabad in general, one of their strengths is reaching out to people, being makarev, elevating people that can. The whole concept of Hasidus came about because at that time in the 1700s, there were maybe 1% or 2% of Klal Yisrael that were learning Torah, that were in yeshivas, and the rest of the people were living out in the woods, in the Carpathian Mountains, those places, and had almost no connection to Torah, to Yiddishkeit. And the tzaddikim, the Baal Shem Tov, was the one who went to these people and told them, just because you're not learning Rishonim and Achronim and Tosfos, you're still connected, you're still in the ring. And sometimes you're making a bracha on a food item could give Hashem more nachas than another person who thinks that they're much closer, that kind of thing. The Baal Shem Tov once said an incredible chiddush. There's a Gemara at the end of Ksubas where the Gemara says, Kol hador beretz Yisrael, doime kemish yesh lo yelekai. A person who lives in Eretz Yisrael, it seems like that person has Hashem. V'chol hador b'chutz loretz, doime kemish ein lo yelekai. And a person who lives outside of Eretz Yisrael, it seems like they don't have Hashem. Now, most people read that Gemara and they say it means if you're in Eretz Yisrael, you're in the palm of Hashem. You're in Hashem's face. You're right in front of Hashem. And if you're outside of Eretz Yisrael, you're not. The Baal Shem Tov asked the question, what's that doime word over there? Doime means it seems. So the Baal Shem Tov said, watch how we're going to explain that Gemara. Kol hador be'eretz Yisrael, a person who thinks he's inside the Kiddush already. He's a Talmud Chacham, he's a Lamdan, he's a Tzaddik, he's this. Doime kemish yesh lo yelekai. It seems to him like he's got Hashem in his pocket, like he's right up there. He's got a front seat in Gan Eden, but he's really very far. V'chol hador b'chutz loretz. Those Jews who feel like they're outside, they feel like they're not even in the ring, they're not even in the ballpark. I don't learn. I'm not in koilel. I'm not there. Doime kemish ein elokai. It seems to them as if they're far from Hashem, but they're really very, very close. So this was the message of the Baal Shem Tov, and this was one of the strengths of Chabad, Breslov, this point of reaching out to people and showing them that every supposedly little thing that you do in Yiddishkeit is so special and so significant and so important, and Hashem loves you, and Hashem is waiting to hear from you. This, I believe, this is the message of all the Lubavitcher Rebbes and all the tzaddikim. This is Moshe Rabbeinu's message, and this is one of the things that's highlighted in Chabad, in Breslov.
It's Mandy Rubinson. Could you talk more about Hanukkah, what the Avodah of a Breslov Chassidist on Hanukkah, how we should prepare ourselves prior and during Hanukkah.
Definitely. Rabbi Nachman once made a statement during his time. He said that Klal Yisrael is divided into two basic groups. One group that puts emphasis on Torah. Learning Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, just learn. You don't really need anything else that much. If you're learning, you're covered. Another group puts emphasis on tefillah. Tefillah, they daven mamish with a bren, with a fire. Rabbi Nachman said, I want to have the best of both worlds. I want to impart to my students the importance of both of these and getting both of these to work together. The opening line in Likutei Moharan is Da ki al yidei Torah miskablim kol hatfilos v'abakoshes. That you know what Torah accomplishes? Torah helps you get all your tefillas answered. And there's a lot to say about that, but that's the opening line, and that's a theme that carries throughout all of Breslov. The way a Breslover prepares for Hanukkah is, number one, learning the halacha, knowing how to light candles properly. If you don't learn, you don't know. V'lo yamor etz chosid. Rabbi Nachman wanted his students, he said there's no such thing as being religious without trying to learn halacha every day, to get to know what the definition of religion is. Do I do it this way? Do I light candles right to left or left to right? Do I make the bracha before I light or after? That's one piece of it. But there's another piece of it. Rab Nosson once on Sukkos, his student, Reb Nachman Tilchiner, was the one who built the sukkah for him. And in those days, they didn't have these companies we have today where you push a button and magic, your sukkah is up with all the decorations and everything, boom, ba boom. In those days, you had to chop wood sometimes, so you had to buy these planks and nail them together. It was an all-day effort, and a person came out of it wiped out, really struggled to put up a sukkah. So his student, Reb Nachman Tilchiner, when he came into the sukkah at Sukkos night, he said, wow, what a good feeling it is to come into the sukkah after having really worked on it all day. Reb Nosson said, you're right, but try to imagine what it's like to walk into a sukkah if a person was mispalel to Hashem all day saying, Hatimeni no tam sukkah. Hashem, give me the taste, let me taste what the mitzvah of sukkah is all about. Let me feel what the holiness of sukkah is all about. And this is one of the highlights in Breslov, that there's a Likutei Moharan and there's a Likutei Tfilos. This is something that I don't think exists anywhere else. That Reb Nosson wrote a book of Tfilos, 500, 800 pages, on every chapter in Likutei Moharan that he was able to. He wrote a tefillah pleading with Hashem to be able to understand that Torah and to be able to fulfill it, to do it properly, and to get all the benefits that come from that. So here again, when it comes to a Yontif of Hanukkah, if I learn that Hanukkah is about Yira Dikdusha, to be able to speak to Hashem in my own words, in English, whatever language a person's best at, and plead with Hashem, Hashem, please help me be zeichet to understand what Hanukkah is all about and what it means to me in 2020, now, in my situation. How can Hanukkah, how can this mitzvah help me? How can I do it in a way that'll connect me to Hashem, make me feel and make me be close to you, closer to my family? Hanukkah is a family mitzvah, Ishu Beisai. There's all, today, so many people are struggling with shalom bayis, with relationships with kids. This is one of the mitzvahs that's supposed to put it all. It's Ish Ubeisai. Hashem, show me how to love my family. Show me how to treat my family with the proper respect. Help me be zeichet to be the kind of person that they should want to love me and they should have the proper respect for me. The more a person learns, the Chasidus especially, which gives you the pnimius of each mitzvah, tells you what the mitzvah is really all about. You have what to speak to Hashem about it. The Breslovet Tzadikim, Reb Shmuel Shapiro, they used to go from Yontif to Yontif. As soon as Sukkot was over, they started davening for Hanukkah, started pleading with Hashem, Hashem, please help me fulfill all the mitzvahs of Hanukkah the right way and to feel what I'm supposed to feel when a person does a mitzvah. to feel closeness to Hashem, to feel elevated. That's an important piece of it. And again, learning is not just the halach. Learning the halachas is step one. Learning the pnimis of what it's about, that you have in the Sifrei Chasidus, in the Sifrei Kabbalah, and especially in the Breslov Sfarim. There's so much written on each holiday. I'll give you one example. The way we light the candles, it's moisif v'hoilech. The first night we light one candle, the second night a second candle, so on and so forth. And if you look in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, give the most simple, basic explanation of what Hanukkah is about is that there were two events that took place. One was a battle against the Rishonim. There were the Yevonim. They wanted to wipe out Yiddishkeit. They wanted to eliminate the Torah. And there was a war that was fought against them, and they were defeated. And it was miraculous, because the Greeks were super powerful and the Jews were and they had much larger group of people and more power. And the Jews were a smaller group, especially the Hashmonaim were a small gang, and they weren't as powerful, and the smaller group defeated the larger group. That's one miracle of Hanukkah. And the second miracle is the miracle with the oil, that a small amount of oil that should have only been able to burn for 1 day or less than a day, burned for 8 days. Rabbi Nosson explains that this teaches us these two. The message of Hanukkah is a message that defines Yiddishkeit for me. That in Yiddishkeit there are 2 steps, and both of them are necessary and critical. And each one without the other one isn't really authentic Judaism. Step 1 is recognizing that there's evil, there's bad. There is bad in this world. When Adam and Chava ate from the Eitz Hadas, they connected to Toiv and Ra. And because of that, we face Toiv and Ra every day, every minute. Every minute we have Bechira. We have to choose right, left, yes, no, good, bad. We have to recognize what's good and what's bad and try to make the right choices. And step 1 is fighting that Ra. Fighting the midos roes inside of ourselves, the anger, the depression, the hate, all the negative qualities, recognizing that this exists and trying to see how I can eliminate the negativity inside myself, in my family, all around me. That's step 1. And to try to get to a good place, to try to get to Toiv. But once a person gets to a certain level of Toiv, the mistake that many people do is they put it in park. I go to yeshiva, I went to elementary school, high school, and now I'm working, and that's it. I'm a Yid, I'm a firm Yid, I'm done. And that's a terrible mistake, because the Torah teaches us chinuch, that basic chinuch in Yiddishkeit requires moisif v'hoilech. There's no such thing in Judaism as putting it in park. A person's supposed to try to grow every day, to improve in my relationship with my wife, with my husband, with my kids, with everybody, to improve in the Bein Adam L'Chaveroi and to improve in the Bein Adam L'Mokoim. And here, this is one of the messages in Hanukkah, in this special Yom Tov. It's teaching us Judaism 1.1, that basic Yiddishkeit, there's two channels that I have to be working on. Eliminating recognizing, learning what is Ra, what's Toiv, what's Ra, and knowing that I cannot come close to Hashem unless I eliminate the Ra inside of me. I have to work on myself constantly from the day I'm born to the day I leave the world, to try to search for the Ra and get rid of it, and then trying to be moisef v'hoilech, trying to grow every day a little bit more, a little bit better, either in quantity or quality or both.
Rabbi Nosson Maimon, so sein gesund. I heard from him many times. He said, when the Yom Tov comes, there's Kidei Chiyunoim. There's an or in the Yom Tov, and every person gets it automatically. But like you've been saying now the whole time, if you want more, if you want the full qualities of the Yom Tov, you want everything that Hanukkah has to offer, It requires the tefillah and his boilers, like you've been saying the whole time. So a guy wants Hanukkah, Kislev, there's an or, it's going to come and you're going to get it. But if you, like you said, Reb Shmuel Shapiro started his Likutei Tefillos already on his Fartzukis. And his Hanukkah is, you can't compare.
I'm sure if you would ask
for the guy that wants to.
I'm sure if you would ask Rabbi Nosson Maimon, he would definitely say that there's no comparison between a person who prepared for the holiday. You know, the whole Torah speaks about hakana for a mitzvah. That if a person prepares for a holiday, the more tefillah a person puts into it, usually they'll feel it more and they'll be able to do it better. That kind of thing. There's a pasuk, harchev picha va'amalehu. Open your mouth wide, Hashem says, and I'll fill it up. You don't ask. Sometimes you don't ask, you don't get. There's a very interesting Breslov point on that pasuk. The pasuk begins with the words, Anoichi Hashem Elokecha hamalcha meretz Mitzrayim. I am the Hashem who took you out of Egypt. Harchev picha v'amalehu. Open your mouth wide and I'll fill it. Ma kesher. What's the connection between the two? The answer is, Hashem tells us there's one time in history that I broke the rules. The rule is, Harchev picha va'amalehu. The rule is, Shuvu elai v'shuv aleichem. Hashem says, you take a step towards me, and I'll take a step towards you. But you got to make the first move. You got to make the first move. There was one time that Hashem had to break the rules. He had to act shaloi keseder. When we were in Mitzrayim, and we were on the 49th level of Tumah, if Hashem would have waited one more minute, if he would have waited for us to make the move, it would have been all over, game over. We would have hit a place that chas v'shalom, we couldn't get out of there just about. So it says that there Hashem broke the rules. He acted shaloi keseder. Whereas the standard procedure is, that's Anoich Hashem Elokecha hamalcha meretz Mitzrayim. Then I didn't wait for you. But now that you guys are out, this is the rule. Harchev picha, open your mouth wide, and I'll fill it. The more you ask, the more you'll get. And that's one of the reasons people ask, why is the meal on the night of Pesach, why is it called a Seder? What kind of name is that to give a meal, a Seder? You ever hear of such a thing? The answer is, it's focusing on this point, that because of the fact that we were in such a bad place, that Hashem had to act shaloi keseder. He had to break the rules to rescue us, to get us out of there, in order to show that we recognize that and we want to improve. We make a Seder. On the night of Pesach, we make a Seder to show we can follow a proper sequence. From this point on, we're going to do things the right way. And that's what Sfiras Omer is all about. Every day, making every day count. We're counting every day. We're climbing. During the 49 days of the Omer, we're climbing, we're going up the ladder. On the 50th day, it says, Vayered Hashem al Har Sinai. Hashem comes down. We made an effort those 49 days to do a little bit to come close to him. On day 50, bang, Har Sinai. You know, Hashem comes down to us in all of his glory.
Reb Nosson, so now that we have exactly 5 minutes left, I want to take advantage of we'll call it the finale of tonight's session. So, talking about Harchev picha v'amalehu, talking to Hashem, his Hitbodedus is a very strong subject and a very strong factor in the Sichas Chaveirim USA group. We talk about it a lot, non-stop. We work very hard. We make extra efforts to do it. Everyone tries to commit to 10, 12 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day. When they're done, they post it on the group that they did it so that it gives other people chizuk. We have 5 minutes left, or not even 4 minutes left. I'm going to put a short challenge. If you can give us divrei chizuk, 3.5 minutes of how to be mechazik ourselves, to continue this Hitbodedus, and even in 60 seconds, how you would explain, you know when you buy the book called Guitar for Dummies, there's the guitar for, so let's call it his Hitbodedus for Dummies. Okay, give us a 60-second explanation how you would break it down, what this is, and give us 3 minutes of chizuk to continue and to get us to do it.
Sure. I'll try to do more than that. When I was 6, I came to Breslov when I was 16 years old. I was learning in yeshiva. First, I learned in Yeshiva Torah V'das, and then I went to BTA, Yeshiva University High School, for part of high school. Wow. And I came to Breslov when I was about 16, 17, and that was when I first heard about this. And my friend, who introduced me to Breslov at the time, a guy that lived in my neighborhood, when he spoke to me about it, he said, try it for 3 minutes. Try doing this for 3 minutes. Again, this was going to be the first time in my life. I davened Shachris Mincha Ma'ariv, a few thousand times, but I never spoke to Hashem in English, number one, and never where I had to write the script. So I remember I came home at night from a shiur of Rav Rosenfeld, one of his shiurim. I went down to my parents had a split level house. My room was downstairs, and we had a shared carpet on the floor. And I sat down on the floor on this shared carpet, and it's Hashem and me in the room. And I started talking. I started trying to talk. And every 15 seconds or so, I looked at my watch, and I never knew that 3 minutes was such a long time. I couldn't believe it. It felt like 300 years, literally, to fill up 3 minutes with talking to Hashem. Seriously. A few months later, I remember I once did it for 90 minutes, and I wasn't finished. And this is a kid. I'm not married, no kids, no responsibility, or supposedly almost. There's a Sefer Hishtapchus HaNefesh, which is a collection of everything Rabbi Nosson says and Rabbi Nosson Zal and about tefillah in general, and especially his Hisbodedus, that takes you through the whole Torah, showing you what they davened for. Adam Arishan, what did he daven for? Noach, Avram Avinu, every one of these masters, it gives you the examples of when and how they spoke to Hashem. Eliezer, when he went looking for a shidduch for Yitzchak Avinu, what did he say? He said, how he spoke to Hashem. Now, I listened in. Rabbi Rieti, Shlita, was on your program and I was listening in. The question was posed, and I heard what he said. It was beautiful, beautiful. There were 1 or 2 things I'd like to add to it. Number one, the Gemara in Bracha says that the most basic elements in tefillah are shevachos shel makom and she'ilas tzrachov. Before you ask, one of the rules in fundraising, I want to go into a billionaire who's been donating to my organization, but he's been giving $500,000 a year, and I want him to give $2 million a year. And I say, you're so rich. Hashem made you so rich. What's $2 million for you? It's pocket change. Come on, write the check. Not that much of a chance. If I go in and say, wow, it's so good to see you, I have no words I'm here to thank you on behalf of the thousands of people that have benefited from your gift. Let me tell you what you did for us this year. And the person starts expressing how thankful, how appreciative, and how huge what you've done till now is. That opens the person's heart, usually, to want to do more, to want to continue. Before Shemona Esrei, there's a paragraph, Ezras Avoseinu Atohu Me'olam. Hashem, you were always there for us. And in that paragraph, it goes, Mogeinu Moshia Lohem. If you read that paragraph carefully, you're going to see again how we talk to Hashem, saying what a great guy he is, and how he's always Mitzrayim, all of these things. That's the prelude for Shemona Esrei. Before I'm going to start asking for anything, I have to have that shvachos shel makom, praising and thanking Hashem for trying to really, in detail. It's not enough to say, a person can't say, Hashem, thanks for everything you gave me in life. Now listen carefully. I need A, B, C, D, E. The more a person puts into the shvachos shel makom, the sweeter and more effective their requests will be. That's a very important point. Now there's other pieces to this puzzle. There's vidui. There's cheshbon hanefesh. There's reviewing my life, reviewing what I did today or yesterday or my whole life, and looking back at the mistakes that I think I've made, and verbalizing that. The Torah says that mechase pshov lo yatzliach, a person who covers up their sins will not succeed. Umoide v'oizev, whereas a person who admits, they confess, and they try their best to change, Yerucham, they'll draw Hashem's Rachmanis. That's another very important piece in Hispoidus. The vidui, the acknowledge, thinking. It's a time to be able to think and review my day and review my week, review what's going on in my life now, my relationship with people and my relationship with Hashem. And where do I think I'm making mistakes? Where do I have weaknesses? And verbalizing this to Hashem and pleading with Hashem to give me the divine assistance that I need to succeed. The Gemara says in Kiddushin, what does the Gemara say? The Gemara says that one-on-one against Hashem, against the Yetzer Hara, no chance. The Gemara says, B'chol yoim v'yoim yitzroi shel adam mizgaber olav, u'b'chol yoim v'yoim yitzroi shel adam mischadesh olav, ve'ilmolei HaKadosh Baruch Hu oizroi lo yochaloi. The Gemara guarantees that a person cannot succeed, cannot defeat the Yetzer Hara without divine assistance. So again, to be able to talk to Hashem about my Yetzer Hara, what my Yetzer Hara is all about, the things that I'm struggling with, the things I find difficult, and to plead, I need your help, Hashem. You said in your Torah that without your help, I can't succeed. Please help me. Please help me. And again, Dvorim hayotzim and alev, if it comes from the heart, it penetrates Hashem's heart, and with time, this is a very important warning. We're living in a crazy, ridiculous time where if I hit the button on my computer and I don't get a response in a nanosecond, time for a new computer. If I ask my wife for something and she doesn't give it to me right away, it's time for a new wife. Everybody knows that, right? But Rabbi Nosson Zal writes in Likutei Halachos many times that when it comes to Avodas Hashem, it's not fast food. There are certain rare times where a person hits a grand slam, where the timing is right and everything is right, and you ask for something, and boom, you get it right away. Hashem shows the person. But most of the time, it doesn't work like that. It takes akshonos. Rabbeinu Zal says, tzoras liachs, action godol b'avodas Hashem. You got to keep punching. And if you keep punching, I remember hearing from Rav Nachman Burstein, Zichron Avracha, that there's a Gemara, toiv ma'at bekavana, meharbe shaloi bekavana. One of the interpretations on that is, we know that when a tefillah has kavana, it's effective. When it doesn't have kavana, it's less effective. So he said, how do you get to have kavana? Toiv ma'at bekavana. You know how you'll be able to get a little bit of tefillah with kavana? Meharbe shaloi bekavana. You'll daven 100 tefillahs. 99 of them will be you're all over the place. You're not constant, you're not this, not that. One of them is going to be a grand slam. One of them, you're going to daven a tefillah that's really going to come from your heart, and that one is going to turn all of those 100 tefillahs into a battering ram that'll smash open the gates of heaven, and you'll get to a whole new level of connecting to Hashem.
Thank you very much.
This is a micro. We gave.
This is like I said. I put you to chat. This is called a 60-second answer.
Yeah, but
Amidst Hashem, the next time we have the opportunity to bring you on, we're going to have amidst more participants, and we'll prepare the questions. Maybe we'll even email you a couple of the questions as a heads up. And slowly, listen. We want to make you want to come again. We don't want to attack you the first time.
Looking forward.
Henry, it's not a numbers game.
This group is so special, really. This group is, you're right, it's not a numbers game. There's a pasuk, toiv ma'at latzadik. A few that are connecting to a tzaddik sometimes can be more than thousands, that aren't connecting the same way, that kind of thing.
I thank you
Looking
very
forward.
much.
Good job.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
On
you.
behalf of the whole group, have a lechtige Shabbos, and we thank you again, and a freiliche Chanukah, and we're looking forward. Have a good Shabbos. Thank you again.
This is delicious. This is better than latkes and sufganiyot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shabbos,
Thank
good
you. Thank you very much,
Shabbos.
Rabbi.
Good
Thank you.
Shabbos.
Rabbeinu Nagila, Rabbeinu Nismata, Rabbeinu Nismata.
That's the way. That's the way.
Shkoyach, good Shabbos.
Thank you. Thank you.
N-
Shabbos.
Rabbi Maimon, 90 minutes is realistic goal?
Definite. This was a 16-year-old nut who played basketball every Sunday, who was in BTA at the time, yeshiva, living in Milbasin, you know.
Yeah, but I'm a
It was
46-year-old nut.
possible.
I mean, it's 90 minutes?
When Hashem opens your heart, you'll be very impressed. You'll see. I mean it.
Okay, shkoyach for the chizuk.
Shkoyach.
Valdi. Thank you so much.
Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.